Well, brethren, hello, and welcome to another episode of Crafted in the South, Season 1, Episode 5. Roddy, can you believe?
I can't believe it. It's already the new year, and I'm so happy to be back on the airwaves, especially with you, brethren. It's been such a good ride starting in 2024, and we got some really good stuff coming up in 2025, and it's always the beginning.
Yeah, and we've got a wonderful episode lined up today. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's been a quiet few weeks because of the Christmas break, but we came back with a bang, Roddy. What did we do just a few weeks ago?
You know what? I am so happy you're asking that because I had one of the most singular experiences that I've had in Freemasonry. We went to an installation. Maybe some of you have gone to one already, but we went to a very special bro here in Hampshire,
Yeah.
Paul Hill.
Worshipful brother.
Worshipful brother, Paul Hill, larger than life.
Yeah.
All loving guy, loves Freemasonry so much that, his wife is the best. She understands Freemasonry and lets him go out all these nights and days just for Freemasonry. But we went to his installation.
We did.
And it was quite special. And why was that, James?
It was. Well, Paul is now the worshipful master of Canute Lodge out of King's Court in Chandler's Ford, but so many people turned up for his installation that it was relocated to the Botley Masonic Centre in Southampton. I think there were more than 100 people there, 120 or something silly like that. It was a big night, and it was a Burns night, wasn't it?
It was a Burns night as well. We got cultural, we got a little bit of Scotland in Hampshire.
We did. We said a prayer to the haggis, or we blessed the haggis, or we did something to the haggis. We ate the haggis. That's what we did. We definitely ate the haggis.
We had a piper as well, bagpiper.
It was a piper.
Great music. And also what was really special is that we got a good group of brethren in Canute that are from the Philippines, and it was just so cool to meet them, extremely welcoming. And I had been hearing about these guys, and they were just very welcoming to their lodge, and it was just an overall good Masonic night, I have to say.
It was a great night. Canute is a very, very diverse lodge. We're going to hear some more about diverse lodges later in the year. We've got some episodes planned to talk about some of our special interest lodges and lodges of particular note, some of which because of their diversity. So we're going to hear some more about that. But today, we've got a very special episode. Who are we going to talk to today, Roddy?
We're going to speak to very worshipful brother, David Perkis. He is the Deputy Provincial Grand Master, and such a really fantastic person to speak to, because in our earlier episodes, we spoke to the Provincial Grand Master from his view of, the overseer and the one that's taking Freemasonry forward in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And then we have David, which is his right-hand man and steps in when the PGM is busy. But also what I really loved talking to David was that he's been in Freemasonry for 42 years. And I asked him, what is the secret sauce that keeps you coming back to Freemasonry? And you have to stay tuned in order to hear that. It's really good.
It is. I think if we say something wrong on this podcast, we'll be lucky to make it to 42 months, Rob.
Exactly.
But it's going all right so far. So with that being said, let's get into it.
Let's go for it.
Dave, welcome to the podcast. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Dave, tell us a little bit, if you can, about your day as a Deputy Provincial Grand Master. What's on the agenda today?
Okay, well, my role primarily is to support the Provincial Grand Master in all that he does. And in the very rare event of him not being able to meet one of his commitments, he knows that he can rely on me to step in and attend for him. So primarily that's my main function. He does give me pieces of work to do or jobs to do, and if I can take some pressure off of him because he is an extremely busy man, then I'm very, very pleased to do that. I also have 5 or 6 specific responsibilities, and they are this provincial office. We're very, very lucky to have a provincial office. We've got 2 permanent members of staff and several volunteers who help to run the province to make sure that we're compliant, that all of the correspondence is dealt with in a timely fashion. And the big thing is to keep records updated, because we have some 8,000 members, and many of them will change address, will move in, some will move out, change telephone numbers, email addresses, and of course in their lodges, because the lodge offices are progressive, they're constantly changing and advancing.
Yeah.
So all of those things have to be recorded, and we've got a super team in the provincial office to do that. So although I'm my overall responsibility is the provincial office, I don't really need to get involved in the day-to-day running of it. My role is perhaps if ever we need to recruit anyone, and if there's any capital expenditure.
Okay.
So that's one of my roles. I'm also responsible for finance. Again, we have a professional provincial treasurer and 2 assistants, all 3 of which are qualified to look after the accounts, to make sure our accounts are in order and the bills paid on time, to make sure we're compliant with VAT and PAYE regulations and so on. So again, I don't really need to get involved on a day-to-day basis, but I have overall responsibility for it.
So when we're talking about the admin stuff of Provincial, is there another aspect where there's support for the lodges aside from admin, or have we gotten to that stage? Or saying if there's an example would be if there's a lodge in trouble, membership is down, does the province step in order to aid them, or just basically support, hey, this is your plan for mediation for this?
Well, you know that we have 6 areas.
Yes.
So the areas would be responsible for those lodges,
Okay.
and they would have teams, membership officers, almoners, and so on. They would have teams that would be able to go in to help and advise those lodges. Having said that, we need to be invited in. We can't just go in and say, you need to do this and you need to do that. But if they'll work with their area teams, then yes, we can provide that help.
Oh, fantastic to know that. That's news. Honestly, I really did think that there was just a really hands-on approach with the lodges, but I didn't know that there was this separation of just having to be invited, which I find it fascinating, actually, that we're just really independent from Provincial in a positive way, and that we could just get guidance whenever we need it.
To what extent can the province direct lodges to do certain things? So if a lodge said, you know, well, we don't like emulation ritual, we want to do our own thing, we're going to have a ceremony that's just for us, to what extent can provincial office say, actually, no, that's not the requirement, you need to do it this way, and anything else is absolutely not sanctioned?
Well, the lodge bylaws would dictate most of that. If the lodge bylaws say we use emulation ritual, then that's what they do. As far as the province is concerned, we have to ensure that our lodges work under the guidance of United Crown Lodge of England. And it's one of these misunderstandings when lodges sometimes say, well, we're a private lodge, we can do what we like. Well, you can't. You have to work within the guidelines from UGLE. If you want to be a private lodge, well, you can be, but then you're out on your own. You resign from UGLE.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're an Isle of Wight Freemason, is that right?
I am. Can you tell in my voice?
It must be very challenging having to take a role, an active role in the administration of a province, most of which is on the mainland, you know, when you consider the logistics of getting back and forth. Is there a challenge in making sure that the lodges on the Isle of Wight don't feel isolated from the rest of the province, or do you think that's never been an issue?
No, I mean, the Isle of Wight, probably 200 years ago, was its own province.
Okay.
It became part of Hampshire about just over 150 years ago. Now, if the Isle of Wight was a province on its own, it would be very insular. You would just go round and round visiting the same lodges with the same people time after time and time again. Being part of Hampshire, so Hampshire and Isle of Wight, gives far greater opportunities. It opens up a vast area that we can visit. and many people to get to know.
Yeah.
And one of the joys is to go around the different areas and the different buildings. Yeah, we've got so many lovely buildings. Okay, we've got some on the Isle of Wight, but it's so nice to go to these other areas and other buildings and see what else is out there. So it broadens our horizons. As for travelling is concerned, it's generally a pleasure, actually. Just I had a lovely trip across the Solent this morning.
Depends on the weather.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the weather. I mean,
Yeah.
the weather.
Awesome.
The weather doesn't really bother us. We're a hardy lot on the Isle of Wight. What does bother us is the unreliability, the not knowing whether the service is actually going to run or not. And that is with one particular company.
Yes.
So that sometimes turns it into an ordeal, but on the whole, it's great, no problem.
So you're constantly traveling back and forth on mainland.
I am.
I find it absolutely fascinating. I didn't even think of that. Thank you so much for being here today for this podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you here. Speaking about you hit a point of the Isle of Wight being such a unique territory. What makes Hampshire unique? Because I feel that within Freemasonry, we could get into the notion that it could be all the same, with just each lodge having different rituals or emulations and things like that. But in your years being in Freemason, what makes this area unique, you think, after your grand travels around the country, because I'm sure you have gone around?
Leadership. We have a superb leader. We're very, very lucky to have the Provincial Grand Master that we've got. And it's because of him that this province is so buoyant. And it really is buoyant. There's a great feeling in Hampshire and Isle of Wight. And that is down to the Provincial Grand Master.
I'm so glad to hear that, because it is. You could just feel it with the leadership, how everyone really wants to contribute. I would consider myself a near Mason as well. For obvious reasons, obviously, I'm not from this country, and I've always said that Freemasonry, especially in Hampshire, has made me feel at home.
You keep forgetting the Isle of Wight.
And the Isle of Wight, I apologize. And that's one of the things that when James and I started the podcast, I'm like, I really want to include the Isle of Wight, because it's always Hampshire. And I like to talk, real talk. And it's true. We need to go to the Isle of Wight, and we're making a promise, and we're going to go visit you in the Isle of Wight.
How many lodges do you have there?
19.
19. There we go. We got 19 opportunities.
And neither Roddy nor I have ever visited a lodge on the Isle of Wight. If we were to go to an Isle of Wight lodge, is there anything particular about Masonry on the Isle of Wight that marks it out as an Isle of Wight thing? Does it have any distinguishing features?
Well, you need to sort your passports out. Well, the island, it is unique, yes. And one of the reasons it's unique is because of the location. It's very compact, and that means it's extremely easy for lodge members to visit each other's lodges. So lodges on the island generally are very, very well supported.
Okay.
And that's because of the location.
And you said something about support. What does support look like on the island? What do you mean by support? Because we do have non-Masons listening to this podcast as well.
Yeah, well, support can be many, many things, can't it? We get support in terms of caring for our members. Mm-hmm. We get support from the charities.
Okay.
So if someone finds themselves in difficulty, then we have lodge almoners who can arrange support for them if and where it's necessary. But in terms of support for lodges, it's visiting. Visiting and having lots of visitors makes such a difference to the evening. And that's what's easy on the Isle of Wight is the visiting. Yes. You don't have to travel miles and miles.
Right.
Is it the case in this province that when the provincial Grand Master is from the mainland, but the deputy is from the Isle of Wight, and vice versa, or is that just where we happen to find ourselves?
Just where we happen to find ourselves. Yeah. I'm extremely lucky, very, very lucky to be in this role. And I just appreciate it every day.
And what was your journey to get where you are now? What was the path from entered apprentice to deputy PGM?
So I was initiated into Vectensian Lodge on the Isle of Wight in Ryde in 1982, so 42 years ago. And in those days, it was quite a long journey to get to the chair. I had to wait 2 years to get into the lodge. And then I think I was a steward for probably 5 or 6 years, and then it took another 8 years to get to the chair.
Oh, wow.
So then I was the master of the Vectensian Lodge. A couple of years later, I was appointed a provincial Grand Steward. Lovely role to have, particularly for someone on the Isle of Wight, because that does open up so much more for you. And I was extremely lucky to have been made the master of the Provincial Grand Stewards Lodge. I've also been the master of the Isle of Wight Masters Lodge. But way back, we used to have group reps. So before we had the 6 areas, we had group reps. And I was the group rep for the Isle of Wight, so I used to report to the then cabinet. When Mike Wilkes, the PGM at the time, came up with the 6 areas, and the idea of that was because we're a very, very big province, and by having 6 areas, it brought the APGMs nearer to the brethren. They're in each locality. So I was the group rep. Mike appointed me APGM, and then I formed the Solent area.
Okay.
So that's the Isle of Wight, Fareham and Gosport together. So I was the APGM then. And I was the APGM for something like 5 years. And then I was in the wilderness for 2 or 3 years. And then when the present Provincial Grand Master was appointed, he asked me if I'd be the deputy. And of course, I was absolutely delighted.
Fantastic. I have a question for you. What are the behind the scenes responsibilities that might surprise us that you have to do or have had to do as a deputy?
Yeah, well, I did say that I've got 5 responsibilities, and I told you about 2 of them. We have a disciplinary process, and whilst we're very fortunate and we don't get many problems, probably no more than 4 or 5 a year.
Okay.
If we do get problems, then I have to chair the disciplinary panel. In the majority of cases, they would be not much more than petty fallouts between brethren in lodges or because of family issues or whatever. And so we would try to mediate, I would try to mediate and try to get an amicable solution to that. If one of our members was subject to criminal proceedings, then that's a far more serious matter. I mean, integrity is one of our core values. So if someone is prosecuted, if they're found guilty of a crime, then we have, or the Provincial Grand Master has 3 options, and one is to admonish them. So if it was a minor offence and they were deeply sorry for what they did, then they might get admonished. Secondly, they could be suspended from Masonic activities for a period of time.
Okay.
Third, they could be excluded. And that doesn't mean excluded from their lodge, it means excluded from Freemasonry. And if they were excluded, they're never going to get back in. Now, fortunately, we don't get many of those.
So
if we do, we have to deal with it.
That's a very important administrative process that I think maybe many Masons don't know about. So that structure, how does it function? So there's a complaint raised. You said that there was a mediation, but how big is the panel? Is there a certain amount, and is it several weeks or months, or just I find it very interesting because I'd never heard of that.
I didn't want to dwell on it, but
I think it's very interesting.
yeah. Well, the panel would consist of myself as the chair and probably 4 others.
Okay.
The Provincial Grand Secretary would sit in to take notes, and then we would have probably 2 past assistant Provincial Grand Masters and our Provincial Grand Registrar. So he's the man with some knowledge of law and legal process.
Okay.
Might be a retired solicitor, might be a practicing solicitor. And he doesn't necessarily get involved with the process at the time, but he would give us guidance to make sure we're on the right tracks. But strictly speaking, if one of our members is subject to criminal proceedings, it's fairly easy to deal with, isn't it?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
You know,
Yes.
If he's done something that serious, and our concern is always whether he's brought Freemasonry into disrepute, or even the potential to bring Freemasonry into disrepute. So they're fairly easy to deal with. The other ones, disputes between members, that can take a long time.
Yeah.
Because you need to get both sides of the story and try to bring them together and try and sort it out. Most times we're successful.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Absolutely.
Let me ask you, how long is your term as Deputy PG?
Yearly appointment.
An annual appointment. It's not a 7-year appointment.
No, it's an annual appointment. I would hope to do something like a 5-year term, which is what the APGMs, the Assistant Provincial Grand Masters, do. But, I mean, that can change. If the Provincial Grand Master wishes to appoint someone else, then when he does, I shall be eternally grateful for the opportunity that he's given me.
You heard it here first.
Yep.
I just find it fascinating that I was born in 1982, and 42 years is quite remarkable to be of service to this province and to the greater organization. What's the secret sauce that Freemasonry has and in our province that has kept you here 42 years? And by your energy, it seems like it's not going anywhere soon. And what is that magnetism? I really love asking that, because you could get so many different answers and they'll all be unique.
Well, it's enjoyment. I thoroughly enjoy it, and it's fun. And that might sound strange. And I'll give you an example that we went to Grand Lodge on last Wednesday. Several of us from the Isle of Wight on the same train, all in our morning suits. And a lady said, "Oh, my goodness, you all look smart. Where are you going?" And we said, "We're going to Freemasons Hall, Grand Lodge meeting." She said, "Oh, very smart." Now, another man a bit later on came by and he said, "What's this, Undertaker's Convention?" And so when you see a lot of men walking around in morning suits, it's hard to realise that there's fun involved. But there is. It's great. It's a lot of enjoyment, a lot of fun. 42 years, yeah, it's a long time, but it's not that long in Masonic terms, because we have members who receive 50 and 60-year certificates. And I've even presented a 70-year certificate to a brother. He was 92 years old.
Wow.
And I presented him with his certificate, and we also gave him what we call a field promotion. So we promoted him up a few ranks, and the lodge very kindly got a new apron for him to put on. And when I gave it to him, he said, "When can I wear this?" I said, "Well, you can wear it all the time now." He said, "Well, even in Tesco's." So I know, It's fun. I enjoy it. It's great. My wife will sometimes say to me, "Well, you're going early today. What is it? A special meeting?" And I said, "Well, yes, it's the installation meeting." And she said, "Well, you had an installation meeting last year. And don't you get fed up with the same old thing all the time?" It never is the same because there's different people, there's new people involved. So it's enjoyment, fun and enjoyment.
And if we sat here 12 months from now and look back on 2025 as it would be, what would you like to see different about Freemasonry over the next year? What do you think that we might do differently, might do better? What initiatives would you like to see come forward, either provincially or more generally? What should we be focusing on over the coming year?
Well, of course, change is one of those words that not many lodges like. But we have changed. We've changed tremendously in the time I've been a member. Fortunately, our customs and our traditions haven't changed. So if I went to a lodge, if I went back 40 years, the format, the ceremony would be very much the same.
Yes.
What has changed is that probably 15 years ago, the Grand Master, His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, he stood up and he said, "Enough is enough, brethren." And what he was referring to was all the silly conspiracy stories.
Yes.
You know, Jack the Ripper was a Mason and goodness knows what else. All those silly tales and rumours that used to periodically turn up in newspapers.
Yes.
Grand Lodge always ignored them. But at that time, they had decided they would no longer ignore them and that there would be much more openness about Freemasonry and what we do. And that has made a tremendous difference. So we're far more open now. I can even tell you that I said to a member of another lodge on the island one day, I said, "Will we see you on Wednesday evening?" He said, "No." He said, "No, I don't go out night evenings. I only go in the winter." And I said, "Well," he said, "I don't want my neighbours seeing me go out like this." That was really his, yeah. And so we've gone from that stage now to us working in the community with a yellow vest on with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Freemasons on the back.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tremendous difference. The only changes I would like to see, I think we need to look at some of our premises. You know, we've spent years and years raising funds for very, very good causes.
Yes.
And in some cases, we've let our own buildings fall down a little. So I would like to see big improvements in many of our buildings. But I wouldn't change much now.
It's interesting. We're having a discussion in our lodge recently about things that we can do over the coming year. And one of the ideas that's coming up over and over is, as well as making donations to the Master's charity for the year and to the festival and so on, is that potentially we could also give some time. So is there a local organisation that needs volunteers to help mow the grass of someone who can no longer leave the house, or paint the fence, or pick up some litter or something like that? And that can be just as valuable a way to make a contribution as raising the money. Important though that is.
Yeah, and we've always done that, but we've tended to do it without anyone knowing.
Yeah.
And now perhaps we're again more open about that. I think COVID was probably one of the big turning points when so many of our members were involved as volunteers and marshals at vaccination centres. But we've always done these things. You know, we have people involved in Coast Watch, in St John's Ambulance, in the lifeboat service, in all of those organisations. We have our members who freely give their time. And yes, if a lodge member or descendants were in need of someone to cut their grass, then the lodge almoner locally would arrange that. He'd get those jobs done for them.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. I really like that you touch upon being more open. I feel that I personally struggle with it at times. I would say because I've gotten abuse already. Not many,
No.
but even from my friends. But for the most part, it's been people are just really interested and they're intrigued. They're like, what is this? Like, what are you doing? And I like having that conversation, and more likely than not, people are just open and they're receptive to hear what we're about. But I do feel that there must be some unease with some brethren. And but I challenge myself at times that, like, enough is enough. We are doing good things in this world. We are doing good things in this country, in our local community. And I agree with you that is part of the narrative that we should have, is change, and change for the better. And we do need to shout out more about what we do. I think that you're right. We are trying to do that, and we have publications. But I think that what we are moving towards is something, an initiative like this in Hampshire and Isle of Wight, is a podcast. And we are going to work with technology and with social media to get those stories out, because they are important. They're very important. I mean, Freemasonry is the fabric of the UK. It's in it. And we should actually drum up some history of what Freemasons have done for our local communities in the country. And I'm very glad that you have said this.
Yeah, well, that's why, you know, we don't change much, but the core principles of integrity, respect, friendship, and service. Now, service in a way has replaced the word charity, because charity to anyone means money. As soon as you say charity, they think money, either collecting money or giving money. But charity is much, much more than that. And being of service to the community,
correct,
is charitable. And so we're putting more emphasis. We're not lessening the amounts of money that we contribute towards good causes, but certainly being of service to the community is a very important part of what we do.
Absolutely. And there's organic effects of it, right? Of course, the good of the community, but also the good of the brethren doing it intrinsically. Giving that service, it makes you feel good, and it makes you more bonded to your community. It makes you bonded to your lodge and your brethren. And I think it's something positive. It's something that needs to be espoused, because we're living in such an age that unfortunately our attention is going to an electronic device, and we're forgetting how to connect with other people. And this is where Freemasonry is invaluable, especially to men at a certain age, because there are many men isolated. And that's why I say, if you are in a lodge, you have no idea how lucky you are to be in this, to have this experience in your lifetime. I just cannot be more adamant that it's just so positive, and that we need to continue that, and also deliver that message. Personally, for me, it's good for your health.
And you know, another of my responsibilities, I'm not actually responsible for our area almoners, but I'm their link with the executive, what we used to call the cabinet, but I'm their link. So I try to attend their meetings as much as I can, and to keep in touch with them, and to provide any support they need. Now, a couple of years ago, they organised a mental health seminar at Eastleigh at the football ground. And I went, and it was a real eye-opener. They had two brilliant speakers, both not only knew their subject, but knew how to put it over. And the thing that struck me, they talked about red flags, and how to spot red flags in people: loneliness, isolation, lack of desire, not wanting to get up and shave and put your suit on and go. And every time they said something, I thought, Freemasonry sorts that out. Freemasonry sorts that out. And I mean, I can go to a lodge meeting and I could be sat next to a 20-year-old who's paid for his bar bill by his phone, and I think, how did he do that? You know?
Yes.
Yeah. And I could be sat next to an 80-year-old who couldn't imagine such things, you know, and tells me about his life and how long he's been in, and everyone in between. So it is so good for men.
Absolutely.
I mean, and also, and I don't mind telling you that on the island, and I've seen it on the mainland as well, many of the men's toilets have got a prostate awareness
Yes.
notice up, and made me think one day. So I went for a test, and I had to have the prostate removed. Now, that was 12 or 13 years ago. Had I not seen that, and had I not gone for the test, we may not be having this little conversation now.
Wow.
You know, so all of these things are important. So that we need to care for our brethren.
Absolutely.
And Freemason, you're right, is so good from him.
One of the things that stuck to me, one of the first episode that we've had in our podcast was that the PGM it said something that really stuck to me. He goes, I joined Freemasonry and I joined my lodge, and all of a sudden I had all these uncles, grandfathers, and brothers that were just surrounding me, and there was mentorship, and that just, and he couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah.
And it's so right. Like whenever we are our lodge, and every meeting there is a chance, or sometimes there's just this knowledge that seeps in. It could be from profession, from, let's say, managing your household, money, life, family, a car. It's fascinating. Where else can that?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
You see, we have it. The forces have it.
Yes.
But we have it. We have it very much.
Absolutely.
And when I joined, I'd recently, my wife and I had recently started our own business, a garage business. And so with my wife, myself, and one mechanic, we did everything. We lived next door. I used to open at 7 o'clock in the morning and close at 6 o'clock at night, and then go back after my dinner to clean cars and prepare cars.
Okay.
My wife did all the administration, and between the two of us, we served petrol and so on. And it was full on. And when I went to lodge, I was in this haven, this wonderful, tranquil room where you could, when no one could get you and bother you, and you sat there watching and listening to these chaps doing their performance, and that's what grabbed me initially. It was just such a contrast between the hectic working life.
So, Dave, you are a provincial officer. What is the progression from becoming an entered apprentice through the chair to becoming a provincial officer? What are the criteria? How do you decide how to promote people and when? And what does that journey look like?
Well, in the lodge, as you know, members progress. So they would begin as a steward, and they would progress through the various lodge offices, and eventually, hopefully, become the master of the lodge. And we encourage everyone to try to go through the chair of their lodge. And some it becomes natural. They're brilliant speakers and organisers, and others it's not so. And for them, the lodge can help them, so other people can step in and do pieces of work for them. So they progress through the lodge. And after a certain time, we've just changed it. It used to be 7 years, and now after 5 years leaving the chair, they could be appointed a provincial officer, depending on whether they qualify or not. So nothing's automatic. But if he was a good master, and then when he left the chair, he took on another role, the treasurer, the secretary, or almoner, whatever, then he would be eligible for provincial honours, and he would get his first provincial honour. If he was a lucky man, he'd get an active one. And the active one means that he would be able to go out in the province on visits and be part of the team that does an official visit. So after that, again, depending on his performance, his eligibility, then he could be promoted further from his first appointment up to a very senior appointment, even up to a past provincial Grand Warden. For the very lucky ones, you could be appointed a Grand Officer. So I'm a Grand Officer, and we only get 5 or 6 appointments per year. So we've got 8,000 members. we've got 200, almost 250 lodges. So that means there's almost 250 past masters.
Yes.
And so for us to only have 5 or 6 Grand Lodge appointments each year, it's a very difficult task to choose those who receive it.
Is that number allocated by Grand Lodge? They'll tell the province that Hampshire and Isle of Wight can appoint 6 or 8 or 10 this year, and then you decide who they are?
Yeah, it's based on a formula. So it's based on the number of members you have in your province. So the smaller provinces might only get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
There aren't many provinces larger than us. So I think there's only one that's, apart from London, I think there's only one that's larger than us. So yeah, 5 or 6 is the norm. But we're going through the provincial honours process. We're going through at the moment. So I oversee that. Each area would propose so many members from their area, might be 60, 70, 80 a year. And I would then look at all of those forms and make sure there's parity across the 6 areas. And that would gradually build up to the annual general meeting in July, which we now hold in London, which is fabulous, when the Provincial Grand Master will invest them all. So that's that process.
And if someone who's coming up for their first promotion has a strong view on whether they'd really like to be active, or perhaps if they really don't want to be active, they want to be a part of Provincial straight away, do brethren have an option to express that preference, or is it simply if you think that they are good enough to be active and you need them, you will appoint them to what you want them to be?
Yeah, both. I mean, we certainly would like them to say if they can't commit to an active appointment, we'd certainly like them to say that, because we don't want to appoint someone who doesn't enjoy the role and doesn't fully get involved with it. As far as whether someone would like an active role, yeah, they can make it known. And the area chairman, the assistant provincial grand master, they would be keeping their eye on people, but they would be aware of those members who look as though they could be of great benefit to the province going ahead, because it's a continual process.
Correct. Yes. It's alive.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to touch on? We're at the end of the list of the things that we wanted to talk about.
No, I think I don't think so. I think I'm happy. I mean, I hope you find it worthwhile. I bet it sounds absolutely awful.
No, that's perfect. No, at all. No, at all.
We'll just do a quick. Dave, thank you for spending some time with us today. It's been fantastic to hear your insights and a little glimpse into the life of the Deputy Provincial Grand Master. We're hoping in a year or so that the Provincial Grand Master will agree to come back and do a year in review for the podcast. Perhaps if diaries align, you could join in when we could have a joint session.
I'd love to do it.
Thank you so much, David.
We'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
Thank you.
Roddy, that was a fantastic interview with Dave, was it not?
Yeah, it was a really good interview. It always surprises me what the driver is for the leadership in our province, and especially what makes it. I loved his answer of like what makes Hampshire special, and he said our leadership. That says a lot about our organization, especially our local province.
Yeah.
We're doing really good things, and we're gonna do even better things. And hopefully we will facilitate that through this podcast, but also, it's charging each and one of us, every brethren, in the province, just take something up that you love in the fraternity and make it yours, as big or small as you can. Of course, time allowing you, because all those little things makes a huge difference for your experience, and then the greater experience for everyone in it and those that are yet to come.
Yeah, that's right. And it was fascinating, I think, to hear, some of the mechanics about how the province is run from an administrative point of view, to understand as a, both of us still relatively new members of the craft,
Right.
that how the province is structured and how it works. So that was a good insight for us.
Absolutely.
And hopefully everyone who listened in enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yes, thank you so much.
Brethren, we are going to be back just next month with another fantastic interview, and you'll hear more about that soon. But in the meantime, Roddy and I are happy to meet,
Sorry to part.
but happy to meet again.